northern China. The Battle of Yahui-Ling is about to begin. Genghis Khan's Mongol horde, numbering 90,000, prepares to clash with the Chinese defenders. But imagine that instead of Chinese soldiers on this battlefield, a single M1 Abrams tank rolls out, a modern military machine against the greatest conqueror in history. Will this change everything? Or will 90,000 warriors with bows and swords find a way to destroy 70 tons of American steel? This may seem completely insane, and to be honest, it is. I conceived this scenario one night when I was filled with questions, so it won't be a perfect case. Before delving into the details, let us establish the context. The Battle of Yakulinga was grand. Genghis Khan personally led this campaign against the Jin dynasty. His army consisted of elite heavy cavalry, light-mounted archers, siege specialists, and infantry. These were not random raiders. They were warriors who would conquer half of the known world. They had disciplined tactics, and most importantly, they had never faced anything they could not ultimately destroy. Now imagine how this beast enters their world. The M1 Abrams weighs 70 tons and moves at 45 miles per hour. Its main weapon can penetrate 3 feet of solid steel from 2 meters away. He has thermal imaging equipment capable of seeing through darkness and smoke, computerized fire control systems, and armor that can stop anti-tank missiles. For a 13th century warrior, this device would look like a metal dragon from hell. But here's the thing. The tank has its own rules that it must follow if it wants to survive this encounter. The first rule is to never stop. The moment the tank becomes stationary, it becomes a target for everything Genghis Khan can throw at it. The second rule is to maintain distance whenever possible. Medieval warriors were masters of encirclement tactics. If thousands of men approach this tank at once, the situation will quickly become complicated. The third rule is to conserve ammunition. Abrams holds 42 shells for the main gun and a limited number of bullets for the machine gun. Each shot must be precise, as resupplying will not be possible. The tank's tactical strategy will focus on 3 key tasks. First, destroy the command structure, eliminate the leaders, and the army will become a crowd. Second, create maximum psychological impact through shock and fear. Make the enemy believe they are fighting something supernatural. Third, disrupt logistics and formations. Scatter their forces so they cannot coordinate mass attacks. The first contact occurs at dawn. A tank emerges from the morning fog like something from a nightmare. Its engine roars louder than any creature these warriors have ever heard. To the Mongols, it must appear as a moving fortress, seemingly without any horses pulling it. The first shot from the main artillery will be utterly destructive. Imagine a high-explosive shell exploding in the midst of a cavalry formation. One explosion will instantly kill dozens, but the psychological effect will be catastrophic. Warriors who have never heard such loud explosions might think that the gods themselves have intervened in the battle. The tank commander will focus fire on the largest clusters of heavy cavalry first. These are elite units that represent the greatest threat if they can coordinate an attack. 120 millipede shell with high explosive content hitting a group of armored horsemen would cause destruction unlike any medieval conflict. The horses panic and rush in different directions. People are thrown from their horses. The survivors cannot understand what just happened. But Genghis Khan did not become the greatest conqueror in history by succumbing to panic at the first sign of threat. After the initial shock, he begins to adapt. The Mongols were masters of tactical flexibility. They quickly realized that this metal machine, whatever it was, avoided close proximity. Genghis Khan would order his fastest horsemen to attempt flanking maneuvers, while his archers looked for weak spots in the armor. Here the situation becomes interesting. Mongolian composite bows were incredibly powerful, capable of piercing most medieval armor. But against an Abrams tank, arrows would be no more effective than spit. The arrows would simply bounce off, causing no harm. However, the Mongols will not understand this immediately. They will continue to shoot, trying different angles and types of arrows, looking for any opportunity to strike. The machine guns on the tank will be deadly against medieval infantry. The coaxial machine gun and the commander's weapon will mow down rows of soldiers like a scythe cuts through rye. But by this time, the ammunition will start to run out quickly. Even the most efficient use of bullets will ultimately lead to depletion of supplies against 90,000 enemies. The tank commander will have to carefully choose targets, focusing fire on officers, standard bearers, and anyone trying to rally the troops. The next tactic of the Mongols will be to use their numerical superiority and mobility. They will send wave after wave of attacks from different sides, trying to overwhelm the tank's ability to counter all threats at once. Some riders will dismount and attempt to climb onto the tank. Here, medieval warfare collides with modern reality in the most brutal way. The external surfaces of the tank are designed to be hard to capture, and the crew can use machine guns to fire at their own hull if necessary. But the Mongols were also skilled engineers when necessary, and if given time, they could start experimenting with siege tactics. They might try to build barriers to catch a tank or dig pits to stop it. They had ropes, chains, and engineering minds capable of capturing fortified cities across Asia. The question is whether a tank can prevent their organization from implementing these strategies. The tank's thermal imaging system would give it a huge advantage in any prolonged confrontation. He could see enemies trying to hide or flank in conditions where medieval warriors would be virtually blind. Night battles would be completely one-sided, but soon there would be a fuel problem, as the Abrams tank consumes about half a mile per gallon, and its fuel supply lasts for about 8 hours of operation. As the battle progressed, psychological warfare became as important as the fight itself. Mongolian warriors were proud of their bravery and discipline, but they were also ordinary people who had never faced anything like this. Some might panic and flee. Others might believe they are fighting demons or spirits. However, experienced veterans around Genghis Khan would likely remain calm and continue to seek new ways of combat. The most dangerous moment for the tank would come if the Mongols somehow managed to stop it. Perhaps they would damage the caterpillar or get stuck in the difficult terrain. Once this 70-ton machine stops moving, it will become a completely different target. The Mongols could surround it completely, set something on fire beneath it, or simply wait until it runs out of fuel and ammunition. But provided the tank maintains mobility and ammunition supplies, it all comes down to comparing numbers and technology. Can one M1 Abrams defeat 90,000 medieval warriors? The answer is likely yes, if the tank crew plays their cards perfectly. Only a psychological effect can cause mass desertions. Medieval armies often scattered when they lost a significant part of their forces, and the losses that a modern tank could inflict would be beyond their psychological perception. The consequences would be legendary. The survivors would return to their tribes with stories of a metallic demon that spewed fire and thunder. Genghis Khan himself, if he survives, would likely become obsessed with understanding and confronting this new type of warfare. The echo of this event in history would be immense. That's all. One of the most absurd military scenarios ever conceived, but which actually tells a lot about medieval warfare and modern technologies. Sometimes the craziest questions lead to the most interesting answers. Do you think medieval determination and numbers can overcome modern firepower, or will technology prevail?